I'm John Lay, CEO and lead analyst of Talented Learning, and I'm here with my guest presenter today, Satch Chathardi from Paradiso Solutions, the CEO, and we'll get right into it here. We got an exciting hour. I don't think I've seen or we haven't seen anything quite like this presentation available out in the industry, so we think we're covering some new and exciting ground today, and to try to bring you up on the 2017 marketplace in terms of integrations and really leveraging the best of cloud-based solutions. So our agenda today, real quickly, is we really targeted this towards content sellers today, whether you sell to individuals or you sell to organizations, content, learning content, or you're thinking about it, or you're thinking about extending into the extended enterprise. These are the things that you have to think about today from an integration and being able to leverage the best of the web that's out there to reduce your costs and increase your ability to sell more content to all types of organizations. And so we're going to talk about things about the challenges that training providers face when trying to find an LMS in today's marketplace. We're going to talk about how APIs work and what are APIs and why they're integral to this best in breed. We're going to name the top 10 types of integrations rather, for different types of applications that can be snapped into a learning ecosystem. And we'll name the top 3 or 4 providers of each one of those integrations, or the other side of those integrations for each one of those top 10. So we show you exactly what we see in the industry and what to consider in the price of third-party integrations, just to clue you in on what something like this is about. So real quickly, who's Talented Learning? Thanks for everybody that's following along on our webinars. I'll keep it brief, but we're now in our 4th year of being a learning tech analyst, research, and consulting firm. We're fiercely independent here in our analysis of the industry and what's really going on in learning management. We've now cover over 125 different learning tech providers. So we follow them, we get to know them, we follow their progress, talk to their customers, and continue to build our database of knowledge of not only all the LMSs in the world, but really their strengths and their weaknesses, so that we can help LMS buyers buy better. And we help LMS buyers by defining their requirements and matching them up with the right specialists. Your presenters today are myself, John Lay, and Satch will introduce himself in just a second. I've got 22 years now in the learning tech industry. I started off by selling content. I carried an LMS sales bag for 13 years, selling high-end learning management systems. And all that time, I thought it'd be great to be on the other side of the equation and help buyers buy, which is why I started Talented Learning. But in my research here over the last 3.5 years, I mentioned we've been reviewing, and I've been reviewing LMSs, going one by one, and working with them to understand their strengths and what makes them unique in the marketplace. And there's 700 different LMS providers or learning tech providers in the global marketplace, and the only reason that the industry can support them all is because of the specialization, and that each one does something special. And so I met Satch and the Paradiso folks a while ago, and what impressed me about these folks is that they have over 100 documented integrations, and so they've built this machine to be integrated into any type of learning system. And I even saw a statement of work that showed all the integrations and the data that gets passed back and forth in each one of these. And I thought we got to have these guys on for a webinar to catch everybody up in the industry on what's going on. And so I'll let Satch introduce himself.
Thank you, John. So my name is Satch Chaudhary. I'm the CEO of Paradiso Solutions, and I've been in industry for about 20 years in various positions, starting from sales, engineering, development, and now running Paradiso Solutions. Paradiso Solutions and myself, our whole focus for the last 7 years has been e-learning, and that's really where I developed my expertise while talking to hundreds of clients, helping them solve their problem. So LMS and integration technology is my focus. I studied at Harvard Business School, And it's been really great to have a friend like John, where I can toss ideas, talk about industry changes, and really we have seen the industry evolve in the last 10 years, how the social, mobile, and cloud has transformed the industry. So a lot of these integrations are a side impact of the move towards the cloud, where the best of the breed wins. A little bit about Paradiso Solutions. Paradiso Solutions it's only focused on e-learning solutions. That includes learning management system, content creation, course catalog. We work with small, medium, large businesses in 22 different countries. The thing I want to point out about Paradiso LMS is the user interface. We try to make it as simple and as intuitive as possible. We have gamification. Social is a big part of our LMS, and multi-tenancy, which is extremely important for the training companies. And as John was mentioning, the 100+ integrations we have, they range from the CMSs out there, such as SharePoint, e-commerce platform, including Magento, CRM, which has really caught up in last 5-6 years, especially Salesforce, and of course the web conferencing tools such as Adobe Connect, WebEx, Zoom. So all of that we'll cover in this webinar. So these are some of our clients. A lot of our clients come from training industry background or customer education, what we call that sector. We also work in employee education as well, so we have 2 different product lines. So for example, Financial Knowledge is a Silicon Valley based company, and they provide financial knowledge to some of the Fortune 500 companies, and basically having a extended enterprise system, they're able to cater financial knowledge to each of their clients. And then we got B2G Training as one of our customer who provides business analyst education online. Effective is one of our clients in Africa. We got SAP. Radio Shack is doing employee training on our platform. So it's we have hundreds of clients in 22 different countries, and I'm really excited about this webinar to talk about the integrations with John. So back to you, John.
Great. All right, well, let's start off with a poll and we'll get going.
Okay.
All right. So, is your organization currently selling content? Yes, no, maybe? We're fast on our surveys here, so click in and we'll move on just to see who we have here on the line today. I ask this question to just about everybody that I meet, or they sell content, and as this is the thing I worry about the most as I go and talk to clients, is really trying to define who's selling content and how and what they're doing and why they're good at it. And so what do we have here? Let's look. We'll see. We'll close this up and share this poll out, and we'll show you the results here. So about half of us are experts looking for some more information. Half of us are here trying to learn, and some are thinking about the right way to do it. And so that's a perfect mix for today here. We'll provide some good information. So, okay, let me hide that. Great. So here's the problem. For a long time, for decades, there's really 2 types of LMSs. There was employee LMSs and there was academic LMSs. And really there was only, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 viable solutions on either side of the equation across a lot of the 90s and even the early part of the 2000s. And for everybody that wasn't in that group, namely for-profit training companies and associations, and customer education and extended enterprise, they were forced to really make an employee or an academic LMS fit for trying to run a training business. And it was always like pushing a rock uphill. It was never an easy solution to do. The idea of selling content and running an e-commerce business was just ahead of its time when it came to learning technology. And so there was just a conceptual mismatch between mainly employee and commercial training systems. And that is, employee systems are generally built around compliance and talent development. They're the mandatory aspects of what you have to do for your job. At least that's the way most organizations have it deployed, where commercial training companies, you have to entice people to come, and organizations, and to open up their wallet and swipe their credit card and take the content and do it over and over again. That whole mindset of voluntary learning and providing that value in a way that people will pay for it is a whole lot different than telling somebody they have to take their compliance training. So all that results in functional gaps between the systems. There's great employee information or employee systems of getting training to users, but it really lacks in a lot of cases on social and gamification and mobile and e-commerce and the flavors of e-commerce and managing different organizations, different organizational clients. And all that creates disconnects in both a functional and a technical, and most importantly in a license and a cost, or just as importantly in a license or cost standpoint, because employee LMSs are really based around named users, and to be able to think about usage from a commercial training standpoint is to think about it more on consumption or the actual use of license by a lot of different people. And it results in also a higher cost because of that mismatch. And so all these things, even though there's 700 LMSs in today's marketplace, it's easy for training companies to get caught in a rut evaluating the wrong type of LMSs and finding and running into these challenges. And so what a commercial LMS needs, the core features of a commercial LMS, is it needs to be consumer oriented. It used to think and act more like Amazon and Best Buy than it does an LMS or compliant. It has to be 100% mobile responsive so that you can access the LMS and the content from any device possible. And you have to manage and deliver any type of online or e-learning training content. And we'll talk about some of those types today. But everything from digital documents to webinars to actual formal learning content. You have to be able to sell to individuals and, more importantly, organization. Sach mentioned at the beginning here around multi-tenancy, or the ability to create different environments for your different organizational clients that you have, and to share different parts of your content library and different rules and branding and core to selling content, anything past individuals. But most importantly, it needs to have some serious API integration to be able to tie into your systems. One of the byproducts of not being able to find or get working in an employee LMS is that training providers faced a choice. They could either make that work, make one of those non-fitting systems work as best they can, or they build it custom. And so what I find in my travels around the world of talking to training providers that are selling content is that they already have a lot of existing systems in place that do different things that can be done by an LMS. And so automatically there's an ecosystem that exists there, and it's different. The LMS portion is really different for each organization of what they want to keep in their existing software infrastructure and what they want to replace or sunset with the learning management system. So what is API integration? This isn't a technical presentation. This is a technical it's going to get, but here's why people's eyes roll back all the time. Application protocol interface, set of routines, protocols, tools, and building software applications. So I did a Google search, and that's what it comes to. And I think a lot of people's eyes roll back in their heads when they start thinking about, this sounds really complex and technical, but all it really is a way for two different systems to talk to each other, any two systems. And it's just a standardized set of rules so that you can pass information back and forth between two systems. That's all it really is, and we see it in our lives all the time. So when you sign up for anything online and you see sign up with Facebook or sign up with your Gmail account, and so that you don't have to enter your your login and password to create a new account. That's an API making that happen. That's the way two systems are talking. On Talented Learning and on many other sites, you see how they could take the Twitter feed and just embed that in your website. That's an API. You see the Google Maps when you go to About Us on companies' websites, and you see that when you click to see their location and the Google Map is there. That's an API that's making that happen. So they're in your daily life, you're seeing APIs work all the time, but in LMSs, it's all about the touch points to the LMS. What are those, what are those touch points? Where do the two systems interact and share data, and how do they trigger the workflow, processes, kickoff notifications, or assign user content? How does that trigger workflow in both systems? And how do they actually make that happen, and what information is shared? That's where things get a whole lot more serious, and it can get a lot more complex when there's hundreds or thousands of points of data that can be transferred back and forth. And so when we think about the training system ecosystem, we're going to look at different parts of CRM, websites, virtual classrooms, social media, HR and finance, e-commerce, and talk about those different integrations. So with that being said, we'll take a breath there. And Sach, in your 7 years, what have you seen from just an integration standpoint? What's different now? Do your average customers have like a lot more integrations than they used to 7 years ago, or what do you see as the main transition from approach from integrations in your career?
Absolutely, John. So what definitely the integration demand has dramatically increased in last 3 years or so, and that's, as I was saying earlier, it's a side effect of cloud technology. So, a training company will obviously have an accounting system somewhere. It could be QuickBooks, it could be Sage, or what have you. They will have a CRM. They will have an email marketing platform such as MailChimp. They will obviously have social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, what have you. And they have video conferencing. So if you look at all of these ecosystem, if they're able to tie in part of it, it's tying everything together is a little difficult, but at least part of it they can tie in, and they can get business intelligence data from it. Mm-hmm. They can see which of the clients they need to upsell or cross-sell if they have a CRM integration. If they have accounting integration, they can look at the revenue side of the numbers based on their product, which is the training. So all of this ecosystem, by tying them together, one of the benefits is increase sales, definitely. And the second benefit is the streamlining. By doing a single sign-on, if the customer can log in using their Facebook or LinkedIn account, if you're selling to individual, that's much more attractive to the customer. So that increases your adoption. So that's an example of social media and how social media is impacting the integration. Mm-hmm. And as we go through, we'll talk more about some of the integration and some of the case studies.
Okay. Well, let's get to the first one, virtual classroom. Now, this one's shared with employee systems, because employees and training companies or commercial training providers use virtual classrooms. For all of these different pieces, I think it's important to note as we go through the top 10 here is that some LMSs can provide all of these pieces, or some of these pieces, or parts of these integrations as not integrations, but as homegrown core product. And so not all of these need to be integrations, or any combination of this can be integration or homegrown product, which kind of makes it all the more confusing, but all the more important on adaptability, of being able to conform and build an ecosystem around your unique needs. And so virtual classrooms are the first step. Why? Because it's just so easy. It's a way, if you have a traditional training business and you have consultants or trainers all around the country or the world, that's expensive, of course, but so is it expensive for the users or the learners, to take 2, 3, or 5 days out of the classroom. So virtual classrooms are a great way to start doing blended, of tiptoeing into selling content online and being able to do pre-work or post-work to shorten that, both for sellers and buyers. That drives down costs, but it's also easy because many training companies already have PowerPoints, and they already have the verbal part of tying the thoughts together, and so that can happen without a whole lot of instructional design like more traditional online classes. The integration points in between these systems is what you see is that it's seamless for the end user. They can register for a virtual class right within the LMS. They don't have to go to a separate registration page at GoToWebinar like you had to sign in to this webinar, for example. But it's right in their interface, right with any of the other content they've been assigned or are mandatory or voluntarily taking or buying. So it's right there in one place, and it streamlines. It's the same process then for registration, for notification, for e-commerce. So all those things then get to use the same standard process that you use for any type of content, even though the tool itself is a third tool. The other integration point is after the session or during the session is, like during this session, to track who all the attendees are, what their, and data about them. Are they asking questions? How did they answer things? Did they, what's their attentive score? Those type of things can then be passed back to the LMS afterwards and automatically update attendance logs, for example. And then just the whole idea of single sign-on, so you don't have to know, two different logins and passwords for the users. It's all the same username and password. So, what I see out in the marketplace is really these, the GoTo products, GoToWebinar, GoToMeeting, GoToTraining. A new one seems to really be catching on is Zoom, Adobe Connect, and WebEx being long-time tools in the industry. Sasha, what are you seeing? Have you seen any change in trends in the top virtual classroom tools that you're integrating with?
The tools, we definitely see Zoom catching up. GoToWebinar is the tool, right? If you have hundreds and hundreds of students joining in, that has established its brand. But the new and upcoming is Zoom, mostly because of pricing difference. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I have seen. Okay, cool. Let's ask
the audience here. See if if you asked the same question a few years ago, it's really changed. I thought GoToMeeting has really watch this, has really picked up, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere, Zoom's been coming on. Let's see what the audience says. Got 7% WebEx, 6% Zoom, 11% Zoom. GoToMeetings winning with 41%, 39%. Oh, we got some others too. We'll take a look in the chat box there, the tech question box. Wow, 25% such are others here. Let's show what that is. Yeah, that kind of surprises me. Anybody write in there yet? I don't see any questions yet. Oh, here it comes. Let's see what. Skype for Business, AT&T, all the above. Skype for Business. So Skype, interesting. I guess, yeah, from an LMS. Yeah, interesting. Well, that's great. That's why we asked the question. All right, cool. All right, let's move on then. Great. So let's move on to the next one. So if you're not doing virtual classrooms, what are you doing? You're authoring, and your authoring tools can be, standalone desktop autherings, or they can be, online authoring tools or online team authoring tools. And a fourth option is that LMSs provide, many LMSs now provide the ability of authoring, within the LMS, just native. And so, the ability to create pages and group them into lessons and courses, and upload any type of digital file and things like that. So there's a lot of choices, and depending on where you are as an organization. But we see many training companies, because they're trying to make an employee LMS work, what they did is they moved the authoring to third-party systems and kept it, so that would give them flexibility in the future to be able to perhaps migrate and change an LMS and not have that impact the content, which is so important. And so now the integration is no downloads. If you have online content, you can keep it up to date in one place. From a training company, there's many times where you distribute your content outside of your own LMS. Maybe your corporate customer already has their LMS and they want to deliver it there. So online authoring, allows you to have that ability to port your content and to sell it in more places. And for those that may have read my post here from a few weeks ago around putting lines in the water, the more ways that you can market and sell your content, the better, because you've already spent the cost to develop it. So if you can sell it through multiple venues, it's wise to do. What are the integration points? Well, the listing in the catalog, the reporting through the LMS, reporting of content and course completion, and the actual content itself. So the content itself resides somewhere else and is just really served up by the learning management system. We see Xylem, Domino's Claro, Gomo, Lucidot is as another one. Sach, what are you seeing? Any other online tools that you're running into on a regular basis?
Yeah, Adobe Captivate has been there. Articulate has catching up. Paradiso Composer, of course, we're very, very strong in Europe and Asia. So we've seen a mix. So sometimes they use the LMS authoring tool inbuilt, or use some of these tools you mentioned or I mentioned. Mm-hmm. So it's all over the place.
Do you find that 5 years ago there was a real aversion to authoring with inside the LMS, mainly because lack of portability of your content if you changed LMS providers? Do you see any change in that attitude? Do you find training companies more willing to author within the LMS, or do you find that they're typically in these outside tools?
Honestly, it's mixed, right? So, I mean, LMS tools are getting better and better, but so are the external tools like Articulate or Captivate or what have you. So I've seen mixed approaches there.
Okay. All right. Cool. Let's hop on to the next one. Now, this one's an exciting one. Though you can use a CRM for internal training, and they do, it's a lot more rare. Customer relationship management system is really the tool an organization used to track everything, almost like spy-like, everything about their prospects and customers. All their interactions with an organization, from phone calls to mailers they received, electronic mailers, snail mailers, whether they bumped into you at a trade show, or you surfed on their site, or you enter in your information to download one of their white papers, or you've consumed, as it is in LMS, as you consume training. Those things, a CRM pulls all that together so that businesses can have a really holistic view of their whole pipeline, how they're interacting with clients, and really all the data behind that, so that they can make smart business decisions. And so CRMs have been around a long time, but the integration of CRMs with LMSs is a relatively new phenomena of the last 5 years. And that's because there's a realization now that there's a direct line, and it's been proven with CRMs, there's a direct line between customers, for example, taking training and being happy customers, using the product or services better, staying as a customer longer because they've been trained. And so the ability to bring training into the CRM and CRM into the training environment is pretty prevalent now, especially in commercial and extended enterprise initiatives, because it's all about really increasing sales and revenue for your organization. And so all these tried and true practices with CRM outside the training industry are now just getting brought to the training industry. So what are the integration points? Well, we see it can really work two different ways that I've seen. Either you bring the LMS into Salesforce.com, for example, and right where you're working inside of there as a salesperson or a customer service rep, the actual training is in that environment. Or it can work the other way, where data from the CRM about your customers and their habits or things that they've done can be fed to the LMS for grouping purposes. So maybe you want to create a group of learners that have been to a trade show and have bought this particular product and are up for renewal in the next 30 days. And you create a group of users like that and proactively push content out to them, or offer them a special on content. So that's using data from another part of the business to help drive business processes in the LMS. And for every organization that I talk to that's integrating their CRMs, that could be Oracle Fusion or Sugar CRM or Microsoft Dynamics, or the most popular Salesforce, it's different. There's so much creativity on how organizations are using that. Sach, what's going on in your organization? How are you tying these together, and what are people doing?
Absolutely. So I want to take a little bit of time here with the CRM integration, because they're extremely important. Just CRM technology itself has been proven itself in the last 10 years that the companies who have CRMs, as opposed to just old-fashioned Excel sheet, grow their sales by big numbers, right? So the power of CRM is amazing. Now combine that power of CRM with the power of the analytics from your learning management system, then it definitely impacts your revenue in terms of the growth in their revenue, growth in customer satisfaction, reporting, streamlining the business process. So just an example about the streamlining the business process. And let's say you have prospect, you put it in your Salesforce CRM or Microsoft Dynamics, whichever CRM, as a contact. Now, as soon as you create a contact and the person buys your product through online or offline, you're able to sync all of that information directly to the LMS. So all of that business process gets streamlined. You don't have to hire an administrative person who is creating accounts in LMS, assigning them to a particular course, and then send them an email about the passwords and all that. So that's all inefficiency, and that creates a lag of time for your customer before they can log on to the training. So this is just one example of how you can streamline the business process. Mm-hmm. What it's showing here on the screen, so Thomas is let's say one of our clients. He works for Walmart, and as you work through your sales process, you follow up with Thomas, follow up with Walmart, close the deal, and once that deal is closed, the user gets created in LMS, and the user starts, in this case Thomas, this customer start taking training. So if you look at the course name column at the bottom portion, those are the courses he's taking. So if you go to the next slide for me, John. Yeah. So this is the one of the integration points where you can see which courses Thomas was taking and what date he completed or not completed, he passed or not, the progress, the score. So all of this information is readily available in your CRM. So the reason you need this information is, let's say you're doing a report for Walmart. So Thomas works for Walmart, and you want to show Walmart the ROI on their training investment. You can easily run that report right in Salesforce, email it to your contact, and upsell them into, once you show the power of learning and what it's doing, you will be able to get the easier reporting, business process is streamlined. You also can see single sign-on. So Salesforce also has a partner portal. Let's say you're doing a partner training. So once your partner signs into Salesforce, you'll be able to click on a tab and look at all the content from your LMS right inside the Salesforce. And same thing for Microsoft Dynamics or Sugar CRM, so on and so forth. And some of the LMSs like ours has applications on all these platforms. If you just go to Salesforce App Exchange, just like your mobile app, you're able to download a Salesforce app which connects to Paradiso LMS or some other companies out there who also have the apps out there.
Wow, outstanding, outstanding. Yeah, that's neat. The CRMs, you see them become really prevalent in customer education and also in channel and partner education, because you can tie things like how many users renew, for example. So say they're on an annual renewal and they don't renew, you can look to see, okay, for those who haven't renewed, who has or who hasn't taken training, and those who have renewed, who haven't taken training. In its most basic example, you can start to get metrics of the success and the impact and how you're moving the needle on measuring on different groups, and you can continue to measure that over time very precisely, so to increase the quality or targeted types of content that you do, and then see exactly how it impacts your business on the metrics that you're trying to drive. It's an incredibly strategic way of taking training from a cost to truly a profit center. Okay, so survey 3, real quick. We'll get this. If you guys use a CRM, love to see which one. Salesforce.com, Microsoft Dynamics, Oracle Fusion, Sugar CRM are the ones we see most commonly. I think Salesforce dominates the market.
Absolutely, John. It's every year has been getting stronger and stronger.
Yeah, and it looks like our audience says the same way. So we got 5 choices or 4 choices, but 50% sitting on Salesforce, 0 on Sugar CRM. Not so sweet there. Not so sweet. I'll be here all week. Okay, So we'll share that with you. You can see real quickly here. We have 50% on the top one, a little bit in Dynamics, a little bit on Fusion. All right. So that's about what we would expect on here. So the next three things, number 4, 5, and 6 here are e-commerce. And the reason we broke them down is e-commerce is that's such a loaded word. Can mean so much or so little depending on who you're talking to and what you're talking about. And so we thought it was important to break it down into 3 types of e-commerce integration. So you get your arms around what's going on here in the learning industry. This and all the different integrations we've talked about today, can be built internally. In many cases, it is inside of LMSs. But the reason why so many LMSs integrate, or so many buyers want to integrate with other commerce system, is because the world already figured out e-commerce. We've been selling things online now for a decade, everything, from Amazon to anything. And so best practices and notifying users and managing shopping carts and, what's the ultimate way to, get your throughput through to, putting something in, clicking in your cart and actually checking out, and, all these strategies to drive more sales in an online way. And so LMS companies, who in many cases think like employee compliance, they bolt on some sort of shopping cart onto their system and call it e-commerce, but they're not bringing really the thought leadership of the industry. And so that is why the third-party systems that are already in play a lot of times are a better opportunity. So an e-commerce system from a shopping cart standpoint is what you would expect. Inside the course catalog that has prices on there, or storefront, and you can have different prices and promotions and discounts and maybe prices per different audience groups, and they add things to their cart. If you're selling to organizations, it gets smarter or more complex, where you can buy seats in a particular course. So maybe you buy 25 seats instead of just one, and then the workflow to manage to get your 25 users in there. And so that whole process of shopping cart and getting to the actual checkout, where you get to the point where you start to enter your information, that's the shopping cart. The Magento, Shopify, WooCommerce is who we see most often. And really what there is from an integration standpoint, it's the add to cart handoff. So when you're actually adding the cart is actually displayed inside your LMS in an iframe, or maybe even go to a third-party site where that shopping cart is. And then after the purchase is made, it directs you back to the LMS, and it provides you access to that particular content. And that access is driven by an API. So that's the shopping cart piece. The next piece of it is the payment gateway. And so after you hit checkout, or as you're hitting buy now, it has your credit card number in there, and it has to go verify your credit card, make sure that's valid, it's not stolen, the number's right, everything is accurate, the address and so forth, and it clears that, and then it puts the money into your bank account. And so every organization has their own payment gateway. So it's not provided ever by the LMS. This is always provided, an organization has some electronic gateway, Authorize.net or PayPal or Stripe, already inside their organization. And what you do is an organization integrates that existing payment gateway. If you don't have one, then you still have to get a third-party one. It's not something that the LMS does, and that's where the PCI compliance, where that comes into play. So in most cases, LMSs are not the PCI compliant part. They're not the part that holds or stores the credit card, and so they don't have the onerous responsibility of managing that data. That gets outsourced to the payment gateway, where that PCI compliance is. And it also helps drive international commerce of changing from one currency to another. And so that hooks to the shopping cart, either directly to the third-party shopping cart, in which case it's actually not really touching the LMS, or if the shopping cart is from within the LMS's shopping cart, then that's where the payment gateway touches. And then the last piece of the e-commerce is the tax management. And it's important, I want Sach to comment on this, because in America we have it easy from a tax standpoint, because content's generally untaxable trading content, so you don't really have to spend many cycles figuring that out or managing that, but across the world that's not the case. Training content can be taxed, and it's taxed differently depending on where it's being delivered or how it's being delivered or where it's being created and what country that you're in. And so you need systems that can manage all that. Mainly Avalara is what I see that keeps track of all those rules and regulations. Sach, what's your experience with the importance of tax management? Is that something you see a lot inside your client base, people integrating this?
Well, I'll give you an example. It depends on the size of the client, right? If it's a global player, so we're working with one of the software companies, and one of their side business is to sell certifications of their software training. So it almost acts like training company in that sense. And they have clients in 50 different countries in the world, and the content is same. They sell the same courses to all these countries. They sometimes want to change pricing. It depends on the geography. They obviously have to change, have tax rules in different countries, like Middle East has different taxes than India or Europe, where VAT is much more prevalent. So it gets complex. So on top of that, you add a complexity of discounting or coupons or bundling of the courses. So you can imagine the permutation and combination. So let's say in Saudi Arabia, they have a bundle of courses with 5 courses with tax code in that country with some percentage of discount, as opposed to somewhere in US where it could be a bundle of 10 courses. And some of these courses could be different because Saudi may have a little bit different laws, and they want to change some of the interface in the courses. So if you look at all of those complexity, you really, if you're a global player or if you're growing fast, you do want an e-commerce system and which can support all of these things. That's why the inbuilt little the shopping cart in LMS usually doesn't work out. And then what ends up happening with some of our customers, they're using those kind of systems so that LMS puts them in a box. So instead of going and becoming the modern age, great Amazon kind of interface, they end up using a really old-fashioned limited interface. So this is an example here where you really want to emphasize on your website and the user interface of it. Try to make it pretty, have a course catalog, searchable, have some previews there, so on and so forth, and you're able to add it to the cart. You can add different quantities, and as you go through the checkout, you can choose different payment option. Obviously, the tax gets calculated automatically. There's another layer of integration for companies who do blended learning. So they may have some classroom training and some online. So in case of classroom training, they need to be able to ship some material to those attendees. The integration with the shipping company, whether it's UPS, FedEx, or what have you. So if you have a really robust e-commerce platform, which lets you add discounts, which lets you integrate with social, integrate with CRM, you can really increase your revenue. So don't let the technology stop you. The technology is there. You just have to find the right piece of technology and be really bold and aggressive in your e-commerce, because that's really your storefront.
Yep. Don't reinvent the wheel.
Absolutely.
All right. So cloud storage, we'll go quickly through this one, but it is really coming on pretty strong here recently, especially with the cloud-based LMSs. And this is the concept that organizations, just in general, outside of learning, are standardizing on online cloud storage as opposed to storing on your laptop or on internal company servers. And so using Box or Dropbox, for example, are ways you can Microsoft OneDrive, Google Drive, where you get a terabyte in all of those pretty cheaply or nothing, even to if you're a customer. Even in a minor way, those organizations provide a lot of free storage that you can use. So organizations use that, and since training content, especially training content that is proprietary to an organization, is usually made up of files and videos and graphics that are used outside of training. And so by tying your LMS from an API standpoint into cloud storage, your organization can store files basically that can be pulled by the LMS and the course content, as well as marketing and sales and customer support. And so that's becoming a bigger trend of leveraging that, and it's easy to back up because they're backing it up as a business on that. But social media, we mentioned that a lot today. Well, it's down here on the list. It could be number one on the list because it's so important to today's commercial providers. It's not so much the talking back and forth and discussion, I guess, though it can be. It's really the leveraging of social media to build your business, to distribute your content marketing, to attract users, to allow learners and users to share not only the learning content or let their friends know about the content, but then also to display that certification or achievements on their social profiles. And so all the social tools are, the ones most of us use every day, from LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook type things. And you can, like I showed before, bring like Twitter feeds in, or feeds, or your wall, or you can bring your contacts into the LMS, or you can, share content to those different pieces of the organization. But you guys are doing some pretty cool stuff with badges. What's going on there?
Absolutely. So we as we work with a lot of training companies, the question comes to us is how do we help training companies grow their sales? So we came up with this concept of viral marketing with LMS and social media, and the bridge between them is the badges. So what a lot of our customers are doing in our platform, let's say the customer's customer take a training, let's say it's on safety or sales leadership or what have you. As soon as they finish the training, with a one click of a button, they're able to publish what we call a badge on any of their social platform using single sign-on. Maybe it's on their Facebook wall. I mean, who doesn't want to share their positive achievements or what have you? So these people share the badge that they completed this training on their Facebook wall. And let's assume this person has 1,000 contacts, their friends and family. And 1 or 10% of that 1,000 looks at that post, you get free marketing. And that's how it's virally spreads. So training company can really leverage this viral marketing concept without losing the easiness of the platform, and without any extra cost, by leveraging social and badges.
Mm-hmm. Wow, cool. Yeah, we just recently did a webinar too where we talked about how associations are using badges and social media as a way to close the skills gap for exactly the same reasons. Because if the badge has value, if it gets renown, or is an actual brand, it's great for the seller and it's great for the actual consumer of that content. So everybody really wins on the ecosystem by displaying it more prominently and help drive additional sales. So the other thing, because learning providers already had websites beforehand, they have content management systems. They're using WordPress or Drupal or one of the other tools to create their website, and so the line is really blurry between what's website and what's LMS. And even on my own site, that line is very gray. You don't know, when you're inside of there, unless you're looking really hard on, whether you're in the LMS or the WordPress side of things. And so what this allows training organizations to do, especially ones that have a strong marketing presence, and they've been doing content marketing, and they have SEO street creds on their actual website. They don't want to send somebody to a different place, a different destination for the learning content, but rather they want that integrated really tightly right within the existing system, the public facing site. And that's where the integration comes in with content management systems. And it could be things of syncing the users or the followers, single sign-on inside, just viewing courses or displaying courses inside the CMS. So, the ability to kind of embed that outside of the LMS, but inside the more polished, perhaps more polished storefront side of things that's being driven in the content management system. Organizations are tying those pieces together, and it's very natural to do that inside of LMSs. But here's my favorite one of the day. And the reason this is my favorite, this is cutting edge. It's here today and people are using it, but this is not something I run into every day in my journeys as an LMS consultant. But I started to more and more and more, and so I know it's catching on, and it's going to be the next big wave of capabilities. It's microservices, and I'm not sure if that's the best term, but that's the best term I have to deliver. And what it is integrations that are much, much smaller. So they do one thing, and it could be made up of things called triggers or actions. So if you think about an LMS, it could be, if a user registers for this course, or if a course is added, it's the if part of the statement, if a course is added to the catalog, or, if something happens in the LMS, then, do something in another system. And that something is just usually one or two things too. So it's real smart. That's the real small. That's the micro part of it. But where it gets cool, that's, big deal, you might be thinking. So it's a small integration, but it's more than that, because what happened is that organizations like MuleSoft and Zapier, and that's what I use, what they did is they created a marketplace of all different types of cloud applications that have their little if-then statements that they make public. And you can tie any of that whole infrastructure together of hundreds and hundreds of systems right from the Zapier or from these aggregator sites. And you can use their technology to build these, in Zapier they're called zaps, little connections in between systems. And what that allows you to do is even a technical dummy like me is, I'm hooking all kinds of stuff up on my site, from GoToWebinar to sending emails to dropping people in into spreadsheets to notifying my team in Slack, all being driven from these microservices. And so I just wanted to show you this if you haven't played here yet. This is Zapier, Z-A-P-I-E-R site, and I just took some screenshots just to show the type of app. So here's some graphics, you can ignore those, but I just took 3 different shots of their actual category, and these are all the different types of cloud-based apps: calendar apps, CRMs, the ones that we talked about, in a lot of cases developer tools, websites, payment processing, HR systems, faxing, email, different reporting, analytics. So all these are different categories, and each one of these categories has a handful of vendors that make their APIs or these little microservices public, and it's really neat to explore and tie those together. So we want to have time for questions here. I see we have a couple of questions, so we'll get to this in just one second here. So how to identify integrations that add value, as part of our agenda here today. Well, the easiest way is, what are you already using? If you're making an employee LMS work for you right now and it's substandard, or you built your own custom LMS, what are the parts of your ecosystem? And so, the very first thing I do is just figure out what my ecosystem is if I was in a buying standpoint, and figure out all the different, looking at all those different pieces that we looked at today to figure out, what we need. And then, so that's the first part. And then for each one of those integrations, why are you using it? Is it aiding to the increase of revenue, the savings of costs, or automation of some sort? And if you can't answer yes to all of those questions, then you might want to evaluate sunsetting that and perhaps using the LMS particular feature. And you want to eliminate all manual intervention in the system. So, to scale from selling, $100,000 or $10,000 of content to 10 million is all about manual intervention. You just can't hire all these bodies to transfer data from one place to another. So integrations need to eliminate that. And then the cost of APIs, last thing we said we get to here is, a lot of APIs now are just included in the cost of the LMS. So in your monthly fee, you have access to, certain APIs, that just come core. And other ones can be priced separately. So if you need it, you pay for it. Or you just go to that third party and you pay for it specifically. Zapier costs $25 a month for what I was talking about previously. And but pre-built modules that need configuration and customization for each client, those are, still going to cost, that $2,000 to $10,000 or even more range in some cases, depending on the level of complexity. And so it's all about really indicating what you need and not need. And so as we get to this page right here, I'll hand that over to you, Sach, to show you what it looks like, and I'll pull up these questions, and we'll get to those in just the next second. So go ahead, Sach.
Absolutely. I'm going to rush through this just because I want to give the time to the questions. So yeah, basically this is just one example of how one of our clients streamline their platform. So the whole topic, this topic is about making a learning or training machine, and that goes back to the importance of the integration. So basically a potential customer comes in through their e-commerce platform. In their particular case, they're using Shopify Enterprise Edition, and then from that a course gets purchased in shopping cart. That information flows into their Salesforce. As soon as it goes in Salesforce, it creates a user in LMS. That's the user enrollment part. And once the user is in LMS, they leverage Adobe Connect in their particular case to do virtual classroom plus some e-learning courses and on-site workshops. So that all happens in the LMS. And as it's happening real time, that course data, the course completion data, as I was showing you earlier, that goes back into Salesforce to get the advanced business analytics in terms of who is attending, who is taking courses, the score, and whatnot. So this is just one simple example of what you could do with the integrations. So John, yeah.
It's not that simple. Go try to tell an employee LMS provider this is what you want to do.
Exactly, and in our case, we just drag and drop the integrations, and we're able to build this within a week, right? And that's where as you mentioned, get a right provider, and then it becomes simple. Yeah. We have all these pieces built in already.
This is why there's 700 LMS providers, because you find a specialist, and specialists, in this case, specialists for commercial learning providers. Imagine trying to teach an employee LMS all the pieces that you want to tie together. It'd be such an uphill battle. So we have one question. Go ahead and feel free to ask any questions here. We'll spend the last 5 minutes here talking about that. We say, how many people are really using an LCMS versus an LMS? Well, that's a good question. I think in past years, they were two completely different things, your LCMS and your LMS. But what happened is that LMS has really absorbed a lot of LCMS type capabilities over the last 5 to 10 years. And so now your LMS can manage any type of content essentially. And so that was really the main LCMS need that people used. But now the LCMS term is really around, I think really centers around collaborative and team authoring, and the ability to have different designers and subject matter experts and graphic artists all work on the same piece of content at the same time versus handing the big file over from computer to computer. But it takes some advanced know-how and need to afford the cost of that. And so in my experience, the LCMS providers are really meant for the higher end content shops. So if you're really creating a lot of content, which a lot of people on this business, on this phone call are, or on this webinar are, LCMSs are much more prevalent. What's the percentage? Here's one for you, Sach. What's the percentage of Paradiso's current clients who are using the LMS for both internal employee training and external customer channel partner training?
A great question. Percentage, I would say about 30% of the clients, especially the bigger clients, they use it for both internal and external, the same platform. And the way we are able to leverage that is we have a very strong multi-tenant, or it's also called extended enterprise feature. So your internal could have its own portal within LMS, branded for your internal reasons, and all of your external clients, like big clients like Walmart, let's say Target, or American Airlines, if these are your clients, you can create a portal within the portal. Within LMS, you can create a portal just for Walmart and assign courses to them and whatnot. It's a big topic. Maybe John and I will do a webinar on extended enterprise. But because of that special feature, our clients are easily able to use just for external training, or just for internal, or for both.
Mm-hmm. I think to pile on or add on to that, what I've seen in my, this is, one of the things I study specifically is, extended enterprise. What I found is that if the LMS is bought by internal users, employee users, then they will expand, or at least the thoughtful ones will expand out to those external audiences, those extended enterprise audiences. However, if they don't, if the internal HR training people don't do that, the extended enterprise groups just go off and make a purchase on their own, and they're not worried about integrating with HR training or anybody else. It's, business unit by business unit, or the customer service department buys separately. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic that happens on who's actually the purchase point. Okay. Well, a lot of the questions here, let me go back through, make sure that we got all these. A lot of these we addressed just in line when we were talking about Infusionsoft. Somebody's using Pipedrive as their CRM, so a couple I'm not even familiar with. So, well, there you have it. In terms of conclusion, the things that we hope to cover today, and like all Talented Learning webinars, we probably have too much content for the 1 hour, so we really laid it on you. But there's a lot of vendors and solutions out there, and a lot of different flavors. And commercial training providers, have an uphill battle to find the proper commercial training machine that they can build and integrate into their existing organic systems. And because there's so many processes that are outside traditional LMSs, a trending and cost-effective and proven approach is really to tie into best-of-breed providers of all these different systems and just make it seamless and build your own commercial training machine that really has a lot of different pieces. We went through the top 10 pieces that we see integrations, but if we would have had 2 hours, we could have came up with another 10 here pretty easily of other touch points of integration. So the sky's really the limit. But the good news is that you no longer have to make an employee LMS fit. You do have options as a commercial training provider here to really get a system that's built for selling. And hopefully we'll put you on the right path here today. Sach, thanks very much for joining me here today. Your expertise and stories is just was just perfect here to give some real life perspective on how integrations are working. I really appreciate you taking the time here to spend with us this afternoon. Thank you. And thanks everybody on the line here for attending. We appreciate it.
Thank you, John, and thanks everybody for joining.
Have a great day. Thank you.